Hey everybody, I love that opening. I put so much work into that.
Yeah, it's really cool.
How are you, Joe?
Tired. I'm glad it's Friday.
Yeah, I hear you. Um, well, everybody out there in YouTube land, welcome to the Raven's Nest. We are back after missing a week. I will get into the details of that momentarily. Um, but first, we're not sure how long we'll be on tonight. We might shut it down a little early. I'm sick. I've been sick for almost 2 weeks now. That was
Mm.
part of the reason we weren't on last week. And the other reason we were supposed to have Buck Angel was supposed to be on the show. He agreed to do it last Friday, and then he said he couldn't do it Friday. He would do it Saturday. Then he said he couldn't do it Saturday, and then didn't get back to me. Um, and when I asked him what he wanted to do, he didn't answer. So I am going to stop chasing Buck Angel to be on. He made his intentions clear.
You
Um,
know,
odds are he's going to say that we didn't give him a chance, or I didn't give him a chance to come up with a day. He had about 5 different days that he himself suggested and then canceled on. So, you know, screw me so many times before I realize I'm getting screwed, you know? So, I mean, well, fuck him. What are you going to do? It is what it is. I tried.
didn't even give you a reach around.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. Shit. Tickle my balls while I still have them.
Yes, definitely. Always tickle the balls.
It's it was his idea. I mean, kind of. Um, for those of you who don't know, for like the one person that might be watching, and for everybody who's gonna watch later on, I guess. Um, what happened was Buck Angel went on a live stream, and Peach let me know that he was streaming, so I jumped in and was watching, and he was talking about Dave Chappelle and J.K. Rowling and how the trans community is so unfair and how we're doing so much damage to our own movement by calling these transphobes. He doesn't believe that they're transphobic, despite the fact that they say things that are blatantly transphobic, like "I am Team Turf," that kind of a thing. Um, and he thinks that basically the trans community is a bunch of children that need a tranpa to guide us. So he said he wanted to have conversation, and I said, "Will you come on my show?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "We can have this conversation." And he said, "Yes, that's what I want. I want to do this. Absolutely, Raven. Absolutely, I will come on." And that was in like January or February. And I have been chasing him to come on ever since. And it's been one excuse after the next. Now, in that time, he has been on. There's a channel called, I think it's Jubilee. That he's appeared on that. He has appeared with Blair White at her house. On a video since then. Um, he has done multiple appearances for other things. But for this, it's always, oh, I have to drive to my mom's the next day. It's I have kids. You don't understand.
As if you don't.
So I mean, somehow because I'm a trans woman, I don't understand what it is to have kids, even though I've got four. Hey, Tranpa, I've got four. I mean, two I've already raised; they're grown, but still.
Yeah, you've been through it.
Yeah. So rodeo, I know a thing or two about.
Yeah.
So, um, I give up. I'm done. I mean, he has made his intentions, I think, clear.
Mm.
He will not be on, does not want to be on. He just wants to be able to go online and say that he'll do these things, but not really go through with it.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to have his worldview challenged. He does not want to have to answer the obvious questions about what he would consider to be transphobic. He does not want to defend his own point of view.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm not a member of the trans community, so I'm going to be very cautious about what I do and don't say. And I don't really know, other than I've seen, actually porn clips of Buck,
Mhm.
and and I know through other people, but I don't really know Buck. So I'm not gonna. So in the statement I'm gonna make, I'm not gonna make a statement about Buck. I'm just gonna make a general statement about people with similar behavior. How's that?
Right.
There are
Understood.
people in, and I've seen this even in the black community. There are people that, even though they're in a marginalized group, relative to the group, they're privileged. Either they have notoriety, or they say the right things. Like there's that Texas sheriff who's black dude who like the right wing loves because he basically blames black people for getting gunned down when they don't have any weapons, and stuff like this. And there's a certain amount of oftentimes there's a certain amount of starfuckery because they get notoriety for the things they say, and they get in. It's kind of like what I've always felt about Karen Strawn, like being the anti-feminist woman that so people who are anti-feminist like her because she helps justify their bigotry. And and Stacey Dash was in the same position in the black community when she was on Fox and basically saying, parroting all the anti-black things that Cosby would say.
Right.
But the thing is, I always try to tell these people, they don't like you. You're useful to them. And Stacey Dash found that out the hard way. As soon as they didn't need her anymore, Candace Owens showed up and they said, "Oh, she's much better than you, Stacey. Get the fuck out of here." And they dumped her in the side, and she came back groveling. "Can I be black again?" You know. Yeah, thank you. Now that you've done all sorts of damage and justified racists and all sorts of manner, and bigots and anti-feminists and all this kind of stuff, misogynists. So yeah, now you want back in the club. It's like, well, go fuck yourself. Um, so and the thing is, being about challenged. I mean, sometimes what can happen, and this, if I'm going to try to steel man Buck as much and people like Buck as much as possible. It's possible that sometimes for someone again who has that relative privilege might really honestly not see the problem. They might really honestly not see it because it doesn't affect them. And again, they have those people who use them, who treat them better than the rest of the community. So they're like, well, it's everything's fine for me. It must have been those people over there that they're the ones that are screwed up. Not it's not the bigots that are keeping them down. It's them because they just can't see their way through. You know, just
So
don't be a victim. Blah blah blah.
so the trans community, and that's something else that's kind of a weird thing, like the trans community. I mean, there are people that are all over the spectrum.
Mm.
Trans people that are just like and hold a variety of views that I mean, it's not a monolith. I think Blair White and Buck are actually pretty good examples of that it's not a monolith, right? But to say that the entire community believes something um, typically would be wrong. Um, and although it is a very popular, very common thing to be um, accepting of a lot of different things, a very wide range of approaching just the entire subject.
Hmm.
Um, that I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to sometimes step back and be skeptical and to talk about certain things like, is this really what we want to show the world, or you know what I mean? I mean, is this really based in fact? And a lot of the times people like Bach are talking about like kids transitioning, and there are people that are just like so
Gung ho about it.
gung-ho and just kind of like off the chain about it that they like just go on attack, and it's just like, leave these kids alone. And it's like, well, I'm 51, and I'm just now coming to grips with a lot of things.
Hmm.
I couldn't imagine at 16 years old that I had my shit together, because I
Right.
did. I mean, clearly. um and there are certain drugs, and I don't know enough about the specifics of a lot of the drugs to really like step into the arena on some of these things. But there was like one drug in particular that if what they're talking about is true, then I would have huge problems giving it to kids. And it's like,
Well, see, the thing is, though, that's just the thing, though, if it's true, but at
right,
least so far, what the claim, when any of the claims I've looked into so far, doesn't mean that there aren't any correct claims out there, but the claims I've looked into so far are exaggerated at best. Because the thing is, look, every drug has potential side effects. There's not a single drug out there. Aspirin can fuck people up if they're, if
right,
they're depending on their
right,
situation. Hell, if you're a hemophiliac, aspirin can fucking kill you if you can get internal bleeding and die
yep,
if you take a hit or something like that. So, but this is the thing. But then they never look at, well, what's the statistical likelihood of actually causing any serious problem? And then, you know, because if we basically went by, oh well, this has a potential for harm, well, we wouldn't take anything. But how it really supposed to come down to is what's
one of the drugs in question, is basically is what they use to chemically castrate prisoners.
Hmm.
And reportedly, because I don't know if what they're saying is factual. Reportedly, it basically permanently, um, basically sterilizes these kids.
Mhm.
And if that's the case, I think that would not be a very good thing to be giving them, in order to block. Um, oh my God, I can't think. And also, I have
Puberty.
the baby crying.
Puberty.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
Yeah, block a puberty blocker. So if the puberty blocker is actually going to sterilize you,
Well, the thing is, does it permanently sterilize you or
well,
temporary?
and that's the claim, is
Yes,
that
yes.
permanently
But
sterilize
here's the reason why I'll say I'm extremely dubious of that claim, because these same drugs have been given to mostly girls who are gymnasts since the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s.
you.
So
Right,
we have 40 years of medical data. And it's an interesting thing to me. The reason why I think the claim is horseshit is because the same people who are beating these drums had nothing to say, never bothered to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't be giving these to gymnasts, and still don't. They only ever talk about it in the context of giving it to a trans child to give them or I guess I'll say a potentially trans child, to give them the opportunity to see if that's the right choice for them. And so see, if it was really about the impact of the drug, then they would be saying the same thing to people in the gymnastics community, but they don't. So that either means they don't give a fuck about the lives of kids in gymnastics, or they just don't want people to have the possibility of presenting the way that they feel that they should.
right.
So
Lutron is the drug that they were talking about specifically. Um, it actually apparently it's got a whole shit ton of uses.
hmm,
Um, endometriosis, chemotherapy.
right.
Um,
Yeah, so this is a drug. Then, so with all those uses, the more uses it has means the more trials and studies there has been on the efficacy and the safety of
yeah.
the drug.
Hey,
So that
Butch.
tells me that it's plus, if you think about it, I would bet the percentage of trans people in society is a lot smaller than the percentage of girls who do gymnastics when they're in their teens.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So again, if there's a problem with the drug, then oh my, if it's a problem for trans kids, then holy shit, is it a problem for gymnasts? And so that's what tells me that they have no real credibility.
So yeah, but I mean, if what they're saying has some truth to it, then I would be, skeptical of giving kids these drugs too, because they're kids,
Right.
and what they want now may not be what they want tomorrow.
Right.
And I think anytime we're dealing with children, especially when you start talking under 16, I think we should be really cautious, and we can't just say, well, they know who they are. Because I don't know, at 15, I didn't know who I was.
No.
I don't think it's a wise course of action to just say that. So if a puberty blocker is for the most part harmless, other than blocking puberty, well then go for it.
Right.
Another concern is, oh, but if they take puberty blockers, then their genitals won't grow to a size large enough to accommodate having surgery to change over. Like, you're not going to have enough skin. And, well, that's a bullshit argument, because they don't need the genitals for that skin. They can take it from the leg. They'll do a skin
Right.
graft from the
Right.
leg. That's what they do.
Right.
Um,
It's another bogus argument. And again, this is to me what belies the fact that they're horseshit. Because if there's no factual basis to their claims, and every single argument or the kid coming up, it makes me dubious about any of their arguments. Doesn't mean
Right.
they're all wrong, but it makes me go,
Right. I mean, and that's the thing. It's just like some of the stuff I don't know, like the skin grafts from the thigh. That I know because I mean, I have a consult for surgery coming up in a little over a month, and I've already looked into what is needed for, so they're like, if you don't have enough material to work with, they can take it from your leg.
Right.
They can do skin graft from your leg. So, so there's always a way. So to say, oh, you're not going to be able to do the surgery because you won't have the skin for it. Bullshit.
right.
That's bullshit. That's just a bullshit claim. But as far as like, puberty blockers and all that stuff, I don't know anything about those. I know about testosterone blocker that I'm taking, and that's what I know about.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I haven't done massive research, but I've done enough to say that, put it this way, maybe, obviously maybe not all puberty blockers are built the same. Maybe some are better, and also humans are not built the same, right? So there may be some that are fine for some kids and not for others. But that's for doctors to decide, and parents, and along with the consulting with the kid. And you're right. I mean, the idea that it's funny because people say, well, the kid doesn't know. And I agree with you. Kids don't know themselves. But that's the whole point of the blocker, right? Because
Right.
it's not surgery. It says, well,
It's
we're
not
not going to
surgery.
give you surgery
It's
yet because
it's not
we
hormone.
want to, we want to make sure you're young and your brain's still forming. And look, I'm probably going to catch hell from some people for this, but this. I mean, there are people, particularly young people, when you're in a group and there's a new idea, and right, you're going to fit in with the idea. I remember my one of my stepson's high school friends.
Keep talking.
Two women. They were friends in high school. They ended up going to college together, and they came to the conclusion that they were gay, and then they lived as a gay couple for a while. And then a few years later, they're like, no, we're not really gay. But and the thing is, first off, there's nothing wrong with that. They're dabbling. They're trying things out. Am I gay? It's a good thing you should figure out at a young age. Yeah, am I gay or not? Or am I bisexual?
It is a good thing to know.
It's a good thing to know. You need to know who you are. So that means you may test things out, test the waters, and see, okay, how do I feel with this? And so same thing. I think there's gonna be people who as a child may feel that they're a different gender, and then maybe they'll change their mind. But that's the whole idea of the blocker, is that it gives them that opportunity to try it out and see if that's really them.
There are people out there that put, my opinion, too much of a big deal on identifying at a young age. I mean, there's a YouTuber, they put up a video of and it was another one that Blair White had kind of brought to because I think she trolls the internet looking for the worst possible people, and then she holds them up as if they are the example of the entire community.
Chanty Binks represents all feminists,
right? And so there was this person who was like, I'm trans, and so is my 7-year-old, and it's just like, what?
right?
I mean, if your 7-year-old is saying that they're, if you have a boy and they're saying that they're a girl and they want to, hey, that's fine. You know what I mean? Kind of run with it, kind of roll with it. Don't like, start telling them that they're wrong and they can't be and blah, 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 blah. But just because they're saying that today doesn't mean they'll feel that way tomorrow. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't.
Right.
Maybe in a year they won't. Maybe they will. Maybe in 10 years they'll be making an appointment for surgery. Right. I mean, who knows? But I mean, I think at 7 years old, that's too young for any parent to be holding them up and saying, my child is trans.
Right,
No,
right.
your child is a child. Your
Well,
child is a child, and they're finding themselves, and that's beautiful. Leave it be.
well, and this is and you brought up something, you maybe triggered something in my brain about like another right wing thing. Their whole thing is that, oh, well, if we accept transgenderism and all this, that it's confusing for children. I'm like, being a child is fucking confusing. Are you kidding me? You
It's
know,
kind
and I
of the
guess,
job. That's
yeah,
kind of the job of childhood, is to be confused and figure shit out.
right. And it's okay. And the only time it's a problem, it's not a problem for children, never really have a problem. They only have a problem when the adults around them create a problem, when they treat
Yeah.
things as a problem. If you just said to a child, hey, I accept you as you are, and you figure out what that is, and whatever it is, I love you. And this is the same thing. Like I keep hearing, trans deniers, they don't think they're trans deniers, but they are, because they try to pretend they accept transgender people, but they keep saying, well, why do they have to, why is it so important to identify? I'm like, it wouldn't be as important to trans people to identify if you didn't make them. If you accepted them as they are, because here's the thing, the whole thing about whether we call somebody a man or a woman or genderqueer or whatever we wouldn't really matter as much if we didn't tie biology and anatomy and physiology and gender expression and sexuality and masculine and feminine to particular things. We've basically created this hard dynamic, this hard binary position or set of binary positions. But here's the thing: it's not really even, because basically, this in our society. If you're male, if you're anatomically male, then you're a man, and that means you have to like pussy. You have to love women, and if you don't, there's something wrong with you. If you're gay or whatever, and
I mean, and the reality is there could be something wrong with you anyway.
Right. But so and the thing is that, so I think about people, I guess, that's there's some people that would be properly called non-binary, and some people would be properly called androgynous, because I've learned now they're not really they're crossover, but they're not really necessarily the same thing.
Right.
But because androgyny is about your outward appearance, not necessarily, and it can be mannerisms to a degree, but it's not necessarily about your gender expression in your head.
Right.
It may coincide, but it doesn't have to.
Because straight people could be androgynous.
That's right.
So I mean, okay, so there's like the whole thing with identify as and identify with, and it seems as though people get those confused on purpose. That's the whole like attack helicopter thing, right? God. Oh yeah, I identify as an attack helicopter. No, you identify with an attack helicopter. That's something completely different.
That is something completely different.
Like, you weren't up late at night wondering why your propellers weren't growing. You didn't lie in bed thinking about why you couldn't play with the other attack helicopters.
That's right. They kept telling you were a transport helicopter, damn it, and that's all you're ever going to be. But but I would bet, I could be wrong, but I would bet, if our society just said, hey, there's Raven, that person expresses themselves this way, and they have these attributes, and some of those attributes are their personality, and some of them are physical, and some of them are emotional, and all these different things, and they are who they are. And we as society are not tied up with what that's called, and we didn't it probably wouldn't matter as much. It's just that we impose upon trans people this binary dynamic, and then get mad that they don't fit it. And I've told you this one before, like, there's, as there are effeminate gay men.
No.
You know this. So yeah, I know, right? What a shock. But what do we do? Well, so what does society do? Is we emasculate effeminate men, and like, to denigrate them, call them women, right? Oh, you're a woman. And we make jokes about how effeminate men are really like women. What if one of those people realizes, you know what? I'm not gay. I am a woman. And then we're mad. Well, wait a minute. You've been telling this person all their life that they're not a real man because they're effeminate. They're a woman, and they act like a woman. And when they say, yeah, okay, I accept that. No, how dare you?
So the first time somebody referred to me as a woman was actually my ex-boyfriend. I was in front of the house, and it was funny because I've told this story before about race relations. So it was the day, I don't know if I'm sure you've heard this story. I've told it 1,000 times, where the cops in front of my house, I'm standing in front of my house, gave me a hard time. They threw me up against the car, blah, 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 blah. What are you doing in this neighborhood? I'm like, I live right here. You have my ID, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, you can verify they live here by the piece of card I just
Yeah.
gave you.
So after they left, I was really pissed off. And I said, I can't believe that these cops, they gave me a hard time because of the color of my skin. And there was a black kid walking by and he hollered to me, welcome to my world. And it was just like, that was like an aha, you know what I mean? But while the cops had me on the car, Ozzy came running out. And he's like, yo, what's going on? And then the cops like stepped in front of him, said, whoa, who are you? And he pointed at me and said, she's my girlfriend. And I was like, I stood up real quick and I said, what? But inside, that felt good.
Yeah.
It felt good.
Right. You were at a time when you couldn't openly say it, but yeah, it was what you wanted.
Right.
Well, that's the thing. That's why, like, when you first came out as a trans woman, I was surprised for about 30 seconds.
Well, I mean,
well, yeah, that was the thing, because like, okay, because I knew you for so long, presenting a certain way, but even then I thought, well, actually, you were still kind of, heading in that direction. Yeah, I shouldn't be surprised at all. It's kind of like my friend Orlando in high school. Like we had this friend. My friend Maria. I've known her since I was 3. She's my oldest friend in my life. I'd never asked her out in high school because she was always with my friend Orlando, and I thought they were a couple. Well, I come to find out when we first reconnected on Facebook, like 12 years ago, 13 years ago, that Orlando is gay. And at first I was like surprised. And then I started thinking and I was like, oh yeah. Yeah. Just thinking back and like, oh, how did I and I said that to him and he's like, how did you miss it? And I'm like, I don't fucking know, man. All the signs were there and I just but see, it really comes down to people are bigots and they want to justify their bigotry, and it gets me angry when I see the people. There's two people within marginalized groups that I can't stand. There's the people who behave exactly like a stereotype. So you're like, oh man, you're fucking it up for everybody else. You're the one perpetuating that idea. And the other are the people. What's that?
I feel that way too.
And the other are the Candace Owens of the world, the Stacey Dashes of the world, who basically run cover and again, most of them are in at least a somewhat privileged, in a relatively privileged position, and then they say, well, I've got it good. What's wrong with you guys?
So there are things, what Blair White and Buck Angel and that ilk. There are things that are worth discussing. There are actual, the whole thing about puberty blockers and when it's appropriate, to for certain things with kids and blah blah blah. These are topics that are worth talking about. That a large part of the community won't even have the conversation, and partly because they don't want their worldview challenged.
Right.
And they also don't trust getting into a conversation with people like Blair White or Buck Angel. But I mean, there's like things like people that have like a million different pronouns. I personally don't care. You can use whatever pronouns you want. But I will say this, I don't necessarily understand. I don't get it. Like, my pronouns are, rainstorm, lightning, and envelope, and it's just like, hey, I will do my best to respect that. But it also makes no goddamn sense.
Thank you.
And anybody can identify any way they want. They can use any pronouns they want. Fine. And that's the difference, I think, between like Blair and me on that topic in particular, is if that's what you want, that's what I will try. I will try my best to do it. I don't get it. I do think it's silly, but whatever. You've got her right. It's silly if that's what you want. And I'm not that much of a bitch, or I'm just going to give you a hard time about it. But know this. No, I'm thinking, okay.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, quite frankly, okay. So I do think obviously I do use they most of the time actually because it is gender neutral, although some people don't like it. Although it's usually not trans people that have a problem, it's usually cis people who are being assholes. But it would be kind of good if they is not going to be the appropriate thing. It would be maybe good to come up with a gender neutral pronoun that we could use, and I'll be happy to do it. But yeah, I kind of feel like people who get set on like, oh, I've invented this new set for myself. Yeah, like you said, I'll comply, but I probably won't deal with them very much because I find people like that tedious. Like, leaving out the trans issue is people who just decide that they're going to use words differently than everybody. And I don't mean like lots of people, like everybody else. Like, well, like George Carlin said, like, do you have your own words? Anytime someone asks you, tell us in your own words. Nick Borny Clondo flu. Words are only useful in that they convey an idea. So yeah, I think it would be better for those people who don't like he or she or they to figure out, get together, vote on it, tell us what it is, them,
The
whatever.
Alternate Pronoun World Convention.
Yeah, let's do that and not have 87 because at that point, again, it's fucking tedious. It's like somebody, and I don't like people who go out of their way to make a scene about themselves unless it's necessary. Like look, if you're literally getting oppressed, which a lot of people are, yell about that. But I don't accept the ones that the other people just like me have selected. I'm gonna pick like a Rainbow, Thunderbolt, and okay, whatever.
Right, but and there are people who are using like nouns, as pronouns, and it's like okay, okay, I will do the best I can, to comply with your rainbow self, and I mean, it's hard, and I think it's silly. I think it's tedious. I think but at the same time, I'm not an asshole.
Right.
So you know what I mean? It's like so.
Right, yeah. If you, like I told you, I always said, in all the hangouts, right? If you want me to call you a one horn flying purple people eater, I will do that. I don't even if I don't think you really are one. I don't care.
People that freak out over being misgendered. I get it, but if the people around you would have absolutely zero way of knowing that you were transitioning, maybe you shouldn't be crying about it. Like there's this girl, trans girl on Twitter. She had facial hair. I have facial hair. It's a pain in the ass. I can't do electrolysis. I have scars on my face from electrolysis. I can't afford laser, so I do the best I can. But she didn't do the best she could. She had stubble. She didn't cover it. She didn't shave it. She had stubble.
Didn't use depilatory.
And again, if that's what you want to do, fine. Her hair was thinning. She was bald. She didn't get a wig. She didn't do anything about it. Fine. It's your body. Your body, your choice. Fine.
But if people get it wrong.
She went out and she wasn't wearing any makeup, and her balding head and her facial hair and her male clothing, and she went to the store and they called her sir, and she got on Twitter and she was crying and she was misgendered and people are awful, and I'm like, sweetheart, I feel for you, I do, but how are they supposed to know?
Well, and that's the thing. Why I think that some people see differently, but I the idea. I get that even if somebody does something harmful to you by accident, it still hurts. I
Right.
believe me if I can get
Right.
that. However, I still think it's appropriate to behave differently if somebody accidentally harms you versus if they purposely harm you. And some people are
So
like, and people say, well, what's the difference? I'm like, because the person that did it by accident is potentially fixable. They
right.
didn't want to cause you harm, and they did, and you might be able to explain to them that they did and how, and someone who's not trying to cause harm is likely to try to change their behavior in the future. There's a chance, but someone who's going out of their way, they're going to do harm to you because they're making an effort in it.
hang on a sec. Where was that?
Like one thing I said, I did a video years ago about like somebody
Ah,
spilling soup, accidentally spilling soup in your lap, or just fucking planting the soup into your lap. Yeah,
right.
they both hurt. They both burned you. The pain that you suffered is real.
So
However, are
though the other day, not the other day, like 2 weeks ago, I went to the pharmacy. And I was checking out, and I was all made up, and I'm looking fabulous, and and I was at the end of the transaction, and I had to sign the thing, and the girl said, thank you, sir. And I went at her. I said, sir, really, really, sir.
Yeah.
And she said, oh well, because of your membership card, the name came up Robert. And I said, yeah, but still, do I look like a sir? I said, I mean, she was, I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's really low.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't like freak out. I didn't yell at her, but it just was like, literally, I looked at her and said, really?
Yeah, exactly. And that's appropriate. That's appropriate because then you know what, you could have made a better effort and you chose not to.
Yeah,
And
it was just like, you
well,
look at me and you see Mr. Really?
and that's the thing. And then there are people, I'm sure you've experienced this probably multiple times, of somebody who they say the wrong thing, you correct them, and then they double down and they do it again. Now that person is trying to hurt you. That person
Right.
is trying to get under your
Right.
skin.
And
And
that's
that,
why, and I've said this a million times since I've transitioned. Most of the time, you can tell when somebody is trying to be hurtful and when they make a mistake. You can tell. You can feel it.
right, because you can read. It's in their body language, it's in their mannerisms, it's in how they say it.
Right.
Well, I always point out, there's people who what they'll do is they'll refer to me or someone around me as a Negro, and I don't even mind the word Negro. I use it myself, but they'll say Negro, or they'll lean into the word, and they're like, oh, okay, I get you. You want to say the other word, but you can't without getting called on it, so you're going to use this as a proxy. Okay, I know what you're doing.
My God.
And again, I grew up at a time when United Negro College Fund, NAACP. So I was like, I do not have a problem with the word Negro at all. But how you use it, I might. Hell, if you use the word, you can use the word. You can call me Joe and do it in a way that I'll take offense to it if you do it a certain way.
Hey, Joe, where you going with that gun in your hand?
That will just annoy me because I can't stand people. That's been said to me like 332,000 times. And it's like, oh God, not again. But it's tough. I mean, and I tend to avoid the discussions, quite frankly, because you brought this up before. There's the people who would be allies, who sometimes go further than the people in the community they're trying to help would go. And I'm like, yeah, you need to back the fuck off and leave it to the people in the community and not kind of make these declarative statements and assertions that staying in your own and I know when they do it with the Black community and they're not Black and they go, again, I get it, you're trying to help, I appreciate it, but on the other hand, yeah, like we've talked before about the fucking safety pin bullshit. I mean that
Yeah. Well, I mean, people do all kinds of stuff, and it's just like, should just sit down, just take a rest, you know. But there's also like groups within groups that make demands of the allies that are like, in my opinion, ridiculous too. Though it's just like, at the beginning of the Black Lives Matter movement, there was this big thing about if you're white and you're an ally, you should physically put your body in harm's way by putting yourself between a gun and black protesters. The fuck out of here. I,
I
I,
mean,
I have enough putting myself in danger for me.
yeah,
You
I
know?
guess I was saying, yeah, no one's obligated. I mean, if someone wants to, then hell, that makes them an extra specially good ally. But yeah, I
Right.
don't expect it.
Well, yeah, sure, but I mean, also your skin color shouldn't define whether or not you're cannon fodder for a cause.
Well,
I mean, I think that's silly. It's silly to ask. It's silly to put that kind of a demand and say you're not an ally if you don't do that. No, stop that. That's
yeah. Well, the other thing too, and I did a video about this a long time ago that about the word ally. I think it's a misnomer in a lot of ways. It can be the right word, but not always, because alliances are people that work together for mutual defense. Mutual defense. And if it's a support only goes in one direction, that's not an allyship.
right. It's
Now,
true.
allyships do not have to be equally balanced. For instance,
Also true.
the United States is in NATO. We got a bunch of NATO allies. Look, we are bigger, richer than all of all the other countries. So of course they're never going to contribute as much. They're never going to have as much of a say. They're not going to be as important. But so we're going to end up putting in more to them than they give to us, and that's okay as long as everybody agrees to the level that they're involved with, and the involvement of the other. But yeah, it's not, if it's only one way, it's not allyship. Um, the Now that said, I feel that people in marginalized communities should be allies to one another. How can I expect a trans person to be my ally if I'm not willing to be theirs? If I'm not willing to stand up for their rights, what fucking obligation do they have to stand up for mine?
I agree. Agreed.
And this is one thing, and this one thing I will say, one thing I've seen growing in the feminist community, particularly in the white feminists, which I'm happy to see it. I hope to see more of it. Is there are a lot of white feminists who basically said, "Hey, look, of all the marginalized people, we as white women and who are not poor we're at the top of the marginalized scale. Of all the people that are marginalized, we're living the best because we have privilege. We're white, and we're maybe well off or middle class, and we're educated, so we're better off than all the other people down the train." And so they feel like they and white women have been used as a prop to keep other groups down.
Right.
So there's some that recognize that, and they're trying to use their privilege to help the other communities, and that's great. That's awesome. That's how it should be. And that's why, because it was funny, because somebody said to me, it was about, it just came up about intersectionality, and they're like, "Oh, so is a black lesbian trans woman poor with no college education, like in the worst case?" I'm like, yeah, think about it. I mean, they're literally at the bottom of every fucking scale. They don't have an education. They don't have money. Their ethnic group is in the worst case. Their gender identity and sexuality, all the worst. They probably do have it worse than pretty much fucking everybody.
Yep.
And throw in homeless, and they're homeless. Yeah, now they're worse than everybody. That's like they are literally at the bottom of the social rung.
Basically, yeah, like as far as like categorizations, right? As far as like who has it the worst. Black trans women is pretty much
yeah
that's
really
the bottom of the pecking order,
right?
And yeah, I mean, that's why after Black Lives Matter got going, there was the whole added thing of Black Trans Lives Matter,
yeah,
because that's a marginalized group within a marginalized group,
right? And that was one thing I was happy to see. I went to the
BLM.org page,
Right.
and at least the last time I looked at it, it did say that normalizing transgenderism and stuff like that. So they were in support. So I was like, all right, good, because again, shouldn't be asking for people to be our allies if we're not willing to be allies back.
Right. Right.
And I feel like as a man, even though I'm a black man, so being black has disarmed some of my privilege, but to the extent that I have it, I think it's my responsibility to help women and feminism and all that, because to the extent that I can, I should do that, because again, it's now on the flip side, I've had well-off educated white feminists tell me to check my privilege, and I'm like, yeah, about that. Society has largely done that for me. And because that's the thing, because I tend to remind them, like, yeah, if you look on that scale, because I look, the wage gap is real. I accept the wage gap is real because the stats are there. But I'm like, black men are far below where educated white women are. So
where do Mexican men fall?
Lower than black men.
See, so you're screwed.
Yeah, basically, that's actually probably the worst would be Latin females, because Latinos in our society, unless you're Cuban, tend to do even worse than black people in most areas. Not all, but most areas. And especially with the wage, so it's like a black man earns 65 cents on the dollar. Latino women were like 43 cents.
Yeah.
Which is like abysmal.
Yeah.
And what gets me about that is, these people say, oh, well, they're just in the jobs that pay shit. I'm like, yeah, but why do the jobs that they can get pay shit? That's the problem. That's like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It's like, if there weren't barriers for them to getting, better jobs, most of them probably would have better jobs.
Your notifications sound very loud and crystal clear on my end.
Really?
Every time you get one, I'm like, what's that? Who sent me a message?
Yeah. That's funny. But yeah, well, it's funny because I have my volume actually fairly low, but it sounds like it's coming in louder for you than it is for me.
It's like crystal clear.
That's funny. Well, especially considering, like, on Skype, I've sometimes tried to play like a YouTube video for I'm playing like D&D type game, and I'm trying to play a YouTube video for everyone to hear, and they're like, and I'm sitting there and I got the microphone next to the fucking speaker, and they're like, yeah, I don't hear anything.
Wow.
But yet, yeah, it's so strange.
I just got crazy. Oh, hang on.
So about Star Trek.
Yeah. About that.
So as I said, I have yet to see episodes of New Strange World. I suspect we'll be watching it this weekend. But I guess before the show that I am cautiously optimistic based on the trailers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Damn. Yeah, I don't really want to get into it because you haven't seen any of it.
So. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty details, but I mean, as far as what we were saying,
yeah, I mean,
it's episodic and
it's back to basics. It's the episodes are episodic. There are elements of like details about different characters or whatever that are related to storylines that continue as a thread that goes all the way through. Like Christopher Pike, his fate, and the fact that he found out in Discovery what his ultimate fate is that we saw at in the original series, what he was destined to become. He is aware of that now, and so that basically is a storyline that continues through.
Okay.
And it because it's something about the character that's there, that was there before the show was even made. You know where it starts and you know where it goes. They kind of have to carry it through, but they
Right.
also use it for Pike to make decisions. He weighs things out based on
His
his
knowledge.
own experiences and his foreknowledge and that kind of stuff. So that's interesting, and I think that was pretty well done.
Well,
Um,
what it sounds like to me, like, sure, continue your thought, and then I'll chime in.
it's you know, strange new worlds, seeking out new life and new civilizations. I mean, they're boldly going where about 8 other series have gone before, but they're doing it in very much the same way that Enterprise and the original series did it.
Hmm.
So,
Well, the thing, and I think it's starting to learn from the mistakes of the newer series, and also learning from the success such as it was for Babylon 5. Because see, Babylon 5 has an overarching arc. There is an overarching story to tell, and there's also some smaller arcs within that story.
right.
Then it's still episodic week to week. So not every episode's an arc episode. Because part of the problem, I think, again, I like season 2 of Picard. I know Steve didn't, but part of the
I was
problem
disappointed.
with season 1, and I think probably maybe I don't know if Steve has enunciated as elaborated this way. He may feel this way, is by making the entire season one story, it closes off a lot of options.
Right.
It does in both directions. It's kind of funny because on the one hand, certain things have to be stretched in order to make them fill the season, and
Right.
then other
It
things
allows them to explore certain things more in depth.
right. But on the other hand, it's because we have 10 episodes to fill, however how many it is. Certain things, because I know he had a problem with the pacing, and he felt like certain things stretched on too long. Well, because you had to make it fit the 10 episodes. And on the flip side, by doing that too, is then you also cut off some possible avenues of investigation, because you have to stick to that story because you only have so much time. You can't develop a whole brand new piece of
Right.
stuff.
You know where you're starting and you know where you have to end, and you have to meander, through it to start and end where, these are known points,
Right.
Um,
And this is one of the downsides of having such short seasons. I mean,
I
6 to
agree.
10 episodes is fine for telling a story, but it's really bad for telling you can't get multiple threads in there without it being overgummed up. But then again, that's the problem of, well, is 10 episodes too many to
Both
tell the story you're trying to tell?
both Picard and Discovery suffer from a similar problem. Is they're trying to make them to be more things than they can possibly be, and trying to put way too much in, to tell a fleshed out and full story. Because there are certain things they're not going to be able to do, so it has to be cut, or things have to be like basically like artificially stretched. There are aspects of season 2 of Picard. It was just like, why are they spending so much time on some of these flashbacks?
Mm.
Like, they're to the overall story, they're not as important as the amount of time that they're spending on it. And where the hell is Q? Like, he was
Right.
so absent through so much of it. It's just like so heavy on Jean-Luc as a little kid, and so light on the protagonist,
Right.
the antagonist. I
Right.
mean, let's get a better idea of what the stories is supposed to be.
Yeah, and then they kind of wrapped it that I'll say, it's funny because I never actually liked the character Q during this series. I never liked him.
I loved you.
But I will say that that last episode made me actually like you. I always liked John Delancey. I just never liked the character Q.
Mm.
But the thing is, like, you're right. So I felt the character deserved a better arc during the series. He got a great finish and a kind of a decent start, and kind of nothing in the middle. That would be probably my biggest criticism of the entire series, is that they started Q off great and ended him great and did bupkis with him in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. His snapper was on the blink. That's it. Other than that, he was kind of absent.
And the snapper being out of the rink was a little bit of a Deus Ex Machina too. Well, we can't allow Q to be able to magic the results, so we have to,
we have to really hint to the fact that he's dying.
Yeah.
And make it so it's crystal clear at the end that that's what it's going to do.
Yeah. See, the thing is, if they were going to do that, which is fine doing that, then they should have had more of him, and then first have his snap sometimes work and sometimes not, where it's a little bit, and then slowly deteriorating, and so instead of the half snap, or even if have to have the snap technically work but not work as well as he expects.
Right,
so
like stuff like I'm thirsty. What happened?
And then he does it again, and he gets like a shot glass of water and not a big mug or something.
Right.
Like, hey, wait a minute, what the hell happened here?
I did like Wesley Crusher at the end. I know a lot of people didn't. I did. Yeah, using a magical character to tie up a loose end is kind of lame. I get that, but it was Wesley. And it's like because of that was kind of cool.
Well, what it is, I mean, it's funny because I never liked the Wesley character either, but I like Will Wheaton.
Right.
So I guess the way I was kind of mixed on it. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. In part, I never really liked the whole traveler aspect for Wesley's character in the first place. And the fact that it kind of came out of nowhere with no buildup, I was like, it's a little bit of a
I don't know. I mean, they spent, not lots and lots of time, but they spent a good couple of episodes where they showed that the kid was above average, that he had, he was gifted. Yes, it's still a big leap from gifted to traveler, but
right. And I think that was part of the problem for me too, is that it was like, it was, and that's the thing. So they wasted a lot of time on, and I get the flashbacks. I get having them was important to a degree for Picard's arc, but you did overdo it, and they could have used some of that time, or maybe make it 12 episodes and put in those scenes for Q, put in those scenes for the kid, make those, tie the whole thing together. Don't just drop a few hints and then have magic at the end. That said, like I gotta admit, like when Q, the whole interaction with Picard and Q at the end, I was misty. I gotta admit, I was welling up.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like it because it was just like oh, what, suddenly he did something nice for Picard and their buddies, and it was just like, well, yeah. I always felt that way, that they had built up a relationship over the years with their
absolutely
constant battling.
Well, and it's very clear that if Q wanted Picard to befall bad things, he could have just wiped him out. He could have just put him in an unbreakable situation.
Yeah. So, I thought that was always clear. So when people were just like weirded out by it, I was just like, yeah, you need to relax.
Yeah, I think always Q was challenging Picard because he liked Picard. Right. Or something about Picard that he was obsessed with.
This last test, right, I thought was silly until the very last episode when he was just like, I'm dying alone and I don't want the same thing for you. And it's just like, oh shit. Okay. Now his test made sense.
Right. And it was necessary for Picard to go through and resolve his mother issues in order to be able to be open to somebody else.
Right. Yeah.
And I think, so for me, anyone who wasn't really keen on the series, to me, that was a redeemer of the series. If you didn't quite get why they were doing what they were doing, where they were going, to me, that made the rest of the earlier episodes better.
I was in a chat yesterday with somebody on Facebook where I was bad-mouthing Discovery. Same stuff I normally always say about how nobody's likable. A bunch of backstabbers and backbiters, and everybody has an attitude. It's just such a negative show. And this person said, what about Saru? And I was just like, actually, yeah, I stand corrected. Saru is one of, my opinion, is one of the best characters, not just in Discovery, but in the entire franchise. Saru is an amazing character.
Which one is Saru? Because I've kind of scrubbed my brain of Discovery.
The Kelpian,
I don't know what that means.
the alien that was on the bridge,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
little with the little fear things.
Okay, gotcha.
Doug Jones is the actor who, um,
Okay.
I mean, he's visibly, because it's makeup, right? He's visibly an amazing character. With the guy who's wearing these boots to make it look like his knees are in the back,
Mm.
and they're just absolutely amazing. The fact that he can walk in it, and the fact that he's like an inch around.
Mm.
The guy is so tiny, and it's like he's really that tiny. He's a little tiny guy,
Mm.
really tall. I mean, it's just like it's an amazing character with an amazing story. One of the best characters in the entire franchise.
But he's wasted. It sounds like he's wasted with the rest of the cast.
He is wasted on Discovery, actually. But he's absolutely a highlight of the series.
Yeah, like I said, I tried watching season 1, got through 4 episodes, and then I tried watching season 2 because people said season 2 is better. I watched like 2-3 episodes of season 2.
It's been improving. Every season is better than the one before. Once they separated Discovery from Enterprise and from that timeline, it's improved a great deal.
It sounds like they should have done it earlier.
Yeah.
Hey, we're working on this experimental thing, and all of a sudden, bam, we're in the future and we're dealing with all this stuff. I mean, granted, I get it. It's basically the Voyager story redone in time rather than in space. You know what I mean? Like they're not put far away in time in space. They're put far away in time.
Huh.
Well, and so it's kind of the same idea, but yeah, it still could have worked, and probably would have worked better because. I know Steve. It's funny. I haven't watched Steve's video. He just came out a new video about basically we're talking about Pike and his arc and how they had better stick with which I thought.
I didn't watch it. I saw it on my thing. I didn't watch it yet either.
Yeah, I haven't watched it either. And the thing is that, but I'm so tempted because I'm not sure based on the title. I'm assuming what Steve's saying. I could be completely wrong, but he
I
basically
can play it here. I think.
No. But the thing is, it sounded like based on what he has in the title and description that he's basically saying don't fuck with canon, which made me smile because Steve's usually one that's like fuck canon, just make a good story.
That's true. That was the impression that I got too. Was he's basically saying don't mess with canon? But yeah. I think, but even if that's not what he's saying, because I have no idea, as I didn't watch the video either. If that's not what he's saying, then I'm going to guess the fact that he knows that future is there, and he uses that in the series so far to make decisions. That's a good reason to not remove that dangling. You know what I mean? That destiny.
Right, something that drives the character.
Right.
Well, and again, that's why I don't like the Abrams verse, because what drove Spock was the turmoil between being Vulcan and being human, because he's both, and didn't fit anywhere except on the bridge of that ship.
Right.
And even on the ship, he caught bigotry from some people.
Right.
So because of his origins. So, but once you take that away, what's driving the character now? He's nobody.
Now, the Spock on Strange New Worlds, it's the same actor as the Spock on Discovery. And I did not like him all that much on Discovery. I think the character just didn't fit into the character mix that they had there. It just seemed odd. I think the jury is still out on this actor's portrayal of Spock on the Enterprise with Pike. I think the jury is still out. I don't think he's horrible. He's actually kind of cute. That's kind of irrelevant, but not for me. It it does factor in. But I mean, I mean, one of the earliest scenes in the first episode is he's shirtless, and it's just like, okay, all right, Spock is built.
Well, in that regard, I will say that Zachary Quinto is an attractive man, and he also looked the part. He looked like Spock.
I thought he was a good. I'd seen people like ripping him apart, and I was like, I thought he was a good Spock.
I think he looked the part. I don't think he captured the behaviors and the mannerisms well at all.
Nobody has. I've not seen anyone pull off Leonard Nimoy as well as Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
Um,
That said, Carl Urban did a great job as McCoy.
agreed.
And while he was kind of a goofball earlier in the first movie, once Simon Pegg got on the Enterprise and had that red uniform on, he was fucking Scotty.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was an odd fit until he was on the ship, and it was just like, oh shit, yeah, he's Scotty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because so I'm watching the movie, and when he was because before he gets onto the ship, he's kind of a goofball, and I'm like, that's not Scotty. Who the fuck is this guy? Then he gets there, and I'm like, oh, okay.
That worked. It's hard to believe it, but it worked. And I don't know, Chris Pine.
Again, I don't dislike Chris Pine. I don't think he has the gravitas for Kirk. I really don't.
I liked him. Then I'm like, oh shit, Kirk's hot.
Well, I won't dispute you there.
Paige. I think like shipping characters and this kind of a thing, I think that's silly. And Kirk and Spock, yeah, shipping. You put oh look, Kirk and Spock, they're in a relationship.
Oh god.
That kind of stuff is silly. That's high school kids. Let the high school kids do that.
Yeah.
I'm 51 years old. Let the kids do that.
Yeah. I mean,
Spock and Kirk, the whole thing that makes all of the stories that they're in, no matter who is playing them, what makes those stories great is the relationship between Spock and Kirk and the way that they bounce off of each other, the way they
and McCoy.
Yeah, it's the trio.
My friend Pete says that the original Star Trek is a story of three friends.
Yeah,
and he brings up a lot of parallels, like even to the Wizard of Oz. Like the courage and the heart and the brain. So Kirk is the courage, McCoy is the heart, and Spock is the brain.
Right.
So and use other analogies people have used, but yeah, and so you need all of them, and just like a person, just like those parts of a person, they don't always get along, but they need each other.
But they need each other, right?
Each other, and that's really what makes the original series great. And for me, I'll say maybe they'll someday come out with a Trek that I like better, but they haven't so far.
Okay. I like Bones. That I'm just a country doctor. You're on a spaceship. You are not a country doctor. Stop that.
But the that just made me think of. I was watching a video Steve did where he's kind of criticizing the first Abrams-verse movie about how like the way that Bones, it's like when they explain things that don't need to be explained, like why Bones is called Bones, like because he's the doctor. Of course, it's why he's called Bones. But they had to make it, oh, my wife took everything but my bones. Like, oh, that's such a fucking cheap ass fucking,
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that was silly. That was silly. He's a doctor. Bones works. It's fine. He doesn't need to be explained.
Exactly.
Or like, fine, whatever. If that's they want to use it as a backstory, it works too.
It's just okay.
Not necessary.
Right. It's okay. It's not a bad thing, but it's not a particularly good thing either.
Yeah, he's from Georgia, but it's like the 24th century. He's on a spaceship.
Yeah.
He's not a country doctor.
The swag, the eyebrow wag, and the nag. That's great.
It's pretty good. What's up, redneck atheist?
That fits.
Redneck atheist.
And like I said, for me, for the Abrams verse, when they took that aspect of Spock away, that turmoil of being, from two different worlds, that was what I identified with in Spock. That's what made him matter to me, because that's where I was. Early 70s, a biracial kid in a time when nobody, not white or black, was really happy about that.
So wait, who took Spock's half human, half Vulcan away?
When they destroyed Vulcan, it wasn't that they got rid of it, but just the whole, basically, in that episode, in that movie, if you recall, like, basically Spock comes to the conclusion, well, all the Vulcans are basically dead except for a few scattered ones. There's no need to fret about my Vulcan half anymore. I'm Vulcan, yeah, but it doesn't really matter. So I can indulge. I can go have a relationship with Uhura, and I can just live my life and not have to
So I
worry.
was going to say they didn't erase the fact that his mother was human. I mean,
Right, right. They didn't erase it, but they basically nullified. They took away the turmoil that was within the character, and to me, that was what drove the character. It was that constant turmoil, and even and I remember, like, when I've rewatched the motion picture, which is better than most people give it credit for, because he's still struggling with it. And then when he mind melds with V'ger, he gets a different perspective because he sees that pure logic that he was trying to get to is also a dead end, because V'ger was alone. V'ger had all this knowledge and all this logic, and yet V'ger was alone, and he realized he was alone too. And part of why he was alone was this denial of self. So he tried to find the balance. He didn't get rid of the search for logic and just try to, but it was no longer a shackle.
right. Well, I mean, I enjoy. Somebody sent me something about Blair White and Buck Angel. I guess that person is watching the show. Is that they sent me a screenshot from Twitter of Buck and Blair. And I'll tell you about it later. But it kind of distracted me, and I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem.
But like part of the thing with the new movies, I like them. I think they're enjoyable. I think that there's a lot about them that obviously is based in Star Trek, the original series, that anybody who is a fan of the TV show can find something good in these movies. But one of the things that they did that I wasn't crazy about, and I think this is kind of abstract, but they removed the heart from the stories. And they replaced it with lens flare and explosions.
Yeah.
And that's all fine and good. You know what I mean? There's a place for that. The movies, I don't think they're bad movies. I like them. I think they're enjoyable, but they don't feel like Star Trek.
Right.
And I can recognize them as Star Trek, but they don't hit the same way.
Right. Well, and that's the reason why I don't like them. I mean, basically, and we talked about this, I'm willing to give people a certain amount of creative latitude. But when you slap that label on, you're basically telling me, hey, that thing you loved, this is more of that. I don't expect it to be an exact recreation, because I don't think you could do that anyway. And it's also a different time, and I think you do have to adapt stories for the era you're living in. Which is why during the Cold War we got a certain type of bend towards stories, even if they weren't about geopolitics. There was still an undercurrent because we were living in that situation. So of course that's going to happen.
Red Dawn.
But was it? Yeah, Red Dawn.
Red Dawn.
But there's a lot of stories that are not so obvious but it's there, and because that's how we lived life. But when they depart to that level, so you take the heart out of it, and like, okay, well then it's just a big flashy action movie. And Star Trek was not an action series; it just wasn't. And the movies were not action movies. And so I feel like the people who made those movies completely missed the point of Star Trek.
I gotta be honest though, the original Star Trek movies, they move so slow. It was like, I don't know, a lot. I mean, I wouldn't say that any one of them in particular is just bad all the way through. They all have their good points and their bad points. It's just that the pacing of most of them is just, come on.
But again, that is a product of the time because it was a somewhat slower. We are living in an artificially accelerated time where we believe we need to be so fast.
So we are conditioned now for the fast and the quick payoff. So nobody was saying that. No one was saying that back in 1983, 84. People are saying it now because they forget how they thought when they were, 40 years ago.
I suppose.
Yeah, Star Trek Wars. Yeah, Abrams is well, especially that first one, because at least the second one had a little bit of strategy and tactics. The first one was, there's the bad guy, charge, blah, 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 blah. That's not a space battle. That's pew pew. I want fucking Wrath of Khan. We're moving around, we're doing these things, and how do we avoid what's going on? Use this and use that, and blah blah blah. That's a space battle. Or one of my favorite all-time space battles was in Babylon 5. Severed Dreams. There's tactics going on and strategy, and they're planning things, and it's not. I mean, there's action, but it's not like one of the worst battle scenes ever in sci-fi movies. Well, the worst. I think that first Star Trek movie is probably one of the worst ever. But what up there in bad battle scenes is the end of Attack of the Clones. It just throw a lot of shit for a few seconds before you even had a chance, for your brain even has a chance to register what's on the goddamn screen.
It's true.
And that did not convey to me the sense of, one, what the fuck was going on, two, any sense of urgency or drama. It was just a vertigo / epileptic seizure inducing, camera jerk off.
There's a way of filming, and a lot of action movies are made this way today. And I've talked about this, I think, before. But like when Man of Steel first came out, I had a hard time watching it because the action is so fast that it's like confusing to the eye. Unless you're used to watching movies with action that's that fast, it's hard to watch. I have no problem with it now. A lot of movies are made at that speed now.
Yeah.
So I've gotten used to it. But yeah, Man of Steel, when it first came out, it would like give me a headache. It was just like, I have no idea what's going on.
And a good example of an older movie that I feel the pacing is better for a battle, Return of the Jedi. There's lots of shit going on. And in the beginning, they throw a bunch of stuff, like, that one shot of all these TIE fighters, like, flying in your face.
Mm-hmm.
And then they break off to a wide shot, and you get to see what's going on. The shot is static, but the elements are moving around, and you can watch and you can see what's going on. And then they break off to the little sub elements, so you can actually follow parts of the battle instead of trying to see the whole thing in one go.
The battle on Hoth is good, very, very good too.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's got good action, but it's not a blur of activity. There's time to gather what the hell is going on. And even I said, even in the Return of the Jedi battle, and then the other point thing creates drama is they're jumping back and forth between three battles. You got the space battle, you got the lightsaber duel, and you got the battle on Endor,
right?
Or the Endor moon, I should say. Well, I guess it is technical Endor, but anyway, you know what I mean. Actually, it is the moon of Endor, technically speaking.
Yeah,
but
forest moon of Endor.
Right. But so you have that, and then again you can. There's those moments of flashy, but there's moments of ability to contemplate what you're seeing, and that's well done battle.
Right.
Attack of the Clones is like, let's see how much shit we can throw on the screen at the same time.
Yeah, agreed. And there was the three newer movies. There were certain elements that were like really, really effects heavy, that it was like to the point where it was like, holy shit, but still kind of looked cool. When Rey was on the fighting Kylo Ren on the water, I mean, that was so many crazy effects in that, but it was just like, actually, that was pretty cool. That was done really well. But then the last fight when she was all of the Jedi. Yeah, that was exactly it. That was it's just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I ended up like I watched the first one in the theater. I watched the other one through other means. And then the third one, I was just like, yeah, you're not getting me again. I'm not wasting my fucking time. And especially what happened. So what I did was I talked to two friends, people you know. Andrew was one, and there was somebody else that we know and one person liked it and the other one didn't. And I talked to both of them, and they basically both described the exact same movie. So because someone said, well, maybe you're getting biased. Like, yeah, but I listened to someone who was biased against it, but I also listened to somebody who was biased in favor of it, and they told me the same thing. And so based on that, I think I can likely judge how I would have perceived what was there. And I've since then seen some clips online, and I'm like, yeah, wow, this really sucks. This is really fucking dumb.
And there were aspects of the last one that was some fan service. There's a lot of fan service. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Um, that's the entire point of making movies is to, service the fans. Um, so, you know,
Well, I think a certain amount of fan service is good and necessary, I would add.
yeah.
But I think there is a point where it goes too far.
Yeah, it can. I don't know if oh wow, YouTube is letting me know that the video is that we're streaming. Thanks, YouTube. You're a little late.
Well, like one of the things that's like the first of the sequel series, I just felt like every scene was fan service, and almost every element of every scene was fan service, and it got teased again. It was like, oh god damn it, and
Which one?
again, it wasn't for good. It was for good effect, but a lot of times it just wasn't.
Which one?
For the Force Awakens.
Okay, episode 7.
Yeah, I just felt like
Episode 7 was A New Hope
Yeah,
all over again.
yeah. And so it was just kind of like, really? I mean, do something new. I mean, yes, you need to kind of be connected to the old stuff, but don't just redo everything from before. And yet another fucking planet killer thing. Really? Another one? Really? And this one's a planet. And it shoots something at the speed of light that you can see going through space, and it goes to a system that's supposed to be, Coruscant system, and the beam splits up and hits 7 different planets, and that's the Republic. That are only on 7 planets in one system. Where's the fucking rest of the Republic? And then, by the way, because the planets were destroyed by the big nasty beam, the space fleet was destroyed. Planets, space fleets, and there's and the big beam that you could see going through space that the space fleet didn't see. Hey, big slow ass fucking beam coming through space. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. There's a lot of problems. There was a lot of problems with it. But I mean, yeah. But it was A New Hope, though. That's what killed me. I watched it in the theater, and I kept saying, why did they remake episode 4? We already saw this.
Yeah. It was a bad movie. And the second one was worse. And there's just so many things that they just we want her to be the grandchild of Palpatine. So we'll just make up some shit. And then first, who are her parents? Are they something important? Then they're not important. And then now they're his children that we never knew about.
Yeah.
You just Deus Ex Machina it in there for no reason. Even though we know that this being is capable of generating life from non-life using the Force, because he did that with fucking Anakin.
Yep. Less interesting episode 4. Yes.
Yeah, much less interesting.
It was a less interesting episode 4. That's true. That's true.
But there were so many things like that. My favorite was the bomber in space.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna drop bombs from a
dropping bombs
in space when we're not in a gravity well. So well, what? And then somebody said, oh, well, you could propel it. But yeah, you could, but they didn't. That's
Yes,
the whole thing.
that's right. They didn't. And if you can, then why do you need a bomber for?
Right. Then just shoot missiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this thing when you attach a rocket motor to a bomb, they call it a missile. And you can have guided missiles, or I guess if it's unguided, it's a rocket, and if it's guided, it's a missile.
And it's Star Wars. What happened to the pew pew pew? All the other weapons are pew pew pew.
Well, and the thing is, like, okay, there is a TIE bomber, if you remember from like Return of the Jedi. But what did it do? It fired a proton ball below it. So it directed energy in a direction.
Right.
It fired it. It didn't drop a fucking bomb with no, and that would have made more sense. At least an asteroid has a little bit of a gravity well.
I remember watching it. I'm thinking, a bomber? They're using bombers.
Why are they using bombers? Mommy, why are they using bombers? It's just so crazy shit. And again, it will piss me off. I didn't like what J.J. Abrams did, but then Rian Johnson was worse. Because he was like, not only did he not give a fuck about the fans or the fan expectations, he went out of his way to despoil those. Oh, and by the way, to also say fuck J.J. Abrams, which I say fuck J.J. Abrams too. But when J.J. Abrams left all these hooks for you, and then you go and say, what hooks? I'm going to do some new shit that's not connected to anything. But it's a series, asshole. That's how series work. It's a handshake between, one guy puts the hand out, you come in and grab the other hand, and you pull the elements over. You're muted.
What was her name with the eyes?
Oh, yeah, that one.
What was she? What is she from? What the hell was that?
And that's a story for another time that you're never going to hear. And she happens to have Luke's.
How did she get Luke's lightsaber? How did that happen? And how was it that she was able to talk on the message on the while she was fighting? That was something else too. How are you doing that? How are you in the middle of a battle and able to do this holographic message?
Right. Unless she's an even better Jedi that we didn't know about, but she didn't seem to have any Jedi powers otherwise. And everybody knows who she was, but we don't know who she is, so they didn't even bother introducing her. Oh, that's a character. Okay, what about her?
There were aspects of her that were pretty cool. I like how she loved that Wookiee. That was cute. That was funny. Who are you?
Yeah, we don't know. We still don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea the name of the character. No.
And she just happened to have Luke's lightsaber. That was lost over fucking Cloud City.
Yeah. And they don't tell you how.
So somehow they recovered his lightsaber from the surface of a gas giant. The surface of a gas giant.
Right.
Which, if it even exists, is probably liquid or metal stuff at like ridiculous pressures.
Right. If it has a surface at all. Because it might not. Like Jupiter.
Right. It may be a slushy core like Jupiter.
Yeah, I know. I'm just... Yep. Rey's backstory actually bothered me less than whoever that weird character is. Because it's like... Because they did present her as if you're supposed to know who the fuck it is.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that got me, too, is that, okay, there were a lot of people who gave Lucas heat because, that character's there for toys. Okay, fair enough. That there was a lot of that. Lucas did a lot of that. Then they're like, oh, look at BB-8. Oh, so making characters just so you can put out cute toys is bad, huh? All of a sudden, it's not so bad, huh? I fucking hated that little fucking...
I liked BB-8.
I hated him.
I like
why? Because he usurped R2-D2.
Well, R2-D2 was out of commission.
for Deus, again, more bullshit Deus Ex Machina reasons.
Yes.
And the thing is, what ties all the original six episodes together are the two droids. I don't think the droids got good service, like especially particularly Attack of the Clones. I think they did a really shitty thing. They really did a bad service for the droids there. But at least they're there and they're part of the story arc, because that's one of the things. They're the glue.
They're the glue.
I've actually heard people say that Star Wars is the story of C-3PO and R2-D2 and all their adventures.
Yes.
But then they get sidelined completely, and then just so they could plug in again, fine. They wanted to make BB-8. I wouldn't have minded, but I just was mad. All the people who attacked Lucas for making characters for purposes of generating toys, and then Disney did the same shit, and they were like, "Oh, look at all the great characters." Well, if it's bad for Lucas to do it, it's bad for fucking Disney, or it's okay for both. Make up your mind.
It's true. Well, I mean, Lucas gets a lot of hate because he's Lucas, though.
Yeah, well, this is true, and that was my point to them, is that you just don't like Lucas because you were unsatisfied with the prequels, and so you're gonna hate on Lucas no matter what he did. And basically, yeah, the prequels were. I mean, I legit liked Revenge of the Sith. The other two were disappointing, but I enjoyed them, but they were disappointing.
Right.
But but then it was like, so people were so starved for Star Wars, they would accept any piece of shit that.
Yeah, it almost feels like that. Like, I see 4, 5, and 6 is Star Wars. Everything else is just associated with Star Wars.
Right.
And that way I can enjoy it.
Yeah. Now, Redneck Atheist says pisses him off about new Star Wars is that they had to wait till Rogue One to get a full badass Force user scene. I haven't seen that entire movie. I
like Rogue One. I did enjoy Rogue One.
I saw the scenes with Vader online, and I despised them. I really did. I thought they were atrocious. And the whole movie is built on a false premise that we needed an explanation for this plot hole that wasn't a fucking plot hole. People that don't understand engineering at all thought it was a plot hole, so we had to make up a whole bullshit movie just to explain a plot hole that wasn't a fucking plot hole. Like, oh, how could this thing exist? It's an enormous fucking station, and it has little tiny opening for exhaust, because you have to do that when you're generating megajoules of, quintajoules probably of energy.
Right. You need to vent into space.
You need to vent into space, and it was ray shielded, so that they didn't think, and then even then, if it wasn't even with the computer, Red Leader failed. It took the Force, so the chances of what Luke did were like infinitesimal. That's not a fucking plot hole. That's the whole point. He used the Force. He didn't depend on technology.
Yeah, but no, they didn't do that in the movie. They didn't explain. What they did was they explained where they got the plans.
No, but what I've seen from people, and I've seen clips, is that basically the idea that the guy who built it put that in there on purpose to be a vulnerability.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's true. That was part of the story. But I mean, I think the bigger driving motivator in the entire in that movie was to be able to get those blueprints
through
the Resistance.
Well, see, that might have been
that happening.
That might have been the driver in the action of the story.
Right.
But the genesis of the story was we have to explain this plot hole that doesn't exist.
Right.
And that's what annoyed me. Yeah. Because it's like, no, it's not a plot hole, and that element of it didn't need to be explained. If you just wanted to tell the story of the Bothan spies who got the Death Star, I'm with you. But no,
the Bothans weren't even
in it. So many Bothan spies died, and they didn't even get their due in a fucking movie when the opportunity came up.
Yeah. All they got was a very morose sounding in A New Hope, the whole many Bothans died.
Yeah.
I have no idea who the Bothans were. All I know is I felt so sad to find out that so many of them died.
Yeah, and then they didn't get to be honored in being presented. And apparently Bothans are like
dog-like creatures, I think.
Dog-like, jackal-looking like creatures. Yeah. Jackals are actually feline, but they look like dogs. So yeah, and so they had the opportunity to have the boffins and didn't use the boffins.
There's the character Saul Guerrero. I thought he was pretty good, kind of crazy and paranoid.
Mm.
But I thought he was pretty good.
Who did Forrest Whitaker play?
Saul Guerrero.
Oh, okay. I mean, I like Forrest Whitaker. He's a good actor.
Yeah.
Even when he's in shit movies, he's a good actor.
There was the guy who was the badass Force user. He was the blind monk.
Mm.
And he's walking through a firefight, and he's like, "I am one with the Force." He was pretty badass.
It's funny. I was just thinking about Forrest Whitaker and all the other things he's been. The first thing I remember him being in was Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Forrest Whitaker was in Fast Times?
Do you remember the scene where Sean Penn's character and the young black dude, they were in the car driving and they crashed the car?
No.
You don't remember that? Because then that's how they make a big thing about it. He's like, I can fix it. My father's a television repair.
I can fix it.
Yeah. So that kid's older brother was played by Forrest Whitaker. And then of course what they do is they make the car look like it was the other team's guys that did it, and he gets all mad and destroys. That's Forrest Whitaker.
Oh, I didn't even know. First thing I remember seeing Forrest Whitaker in was The Crying Game.
That was a lot later, yeah. What's really funny, you think about Fast Times at Ridgemont High, how many people got their start or got their first notoriety? Sean Penn, Anthony Edwards, Forrest Whitaker,
Phoebe Cates.
Phoebe Cates, thank you.
Phoebe Cates in the pool scene that launched 1,000 masturbation sessions.
At least a day. just me alone. But yeah, there were so many people in there, and then you had a bunch of like long timers like Ray Walton or Vincent, the guy who played the teacher, the science teacher.
Okay, Mr. Hand.
No, well, Mr. Hand was Ray Walston.
Okay,
the science teacher that takes him to the morgue.
I don't know.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Okay. So we got Sean Penn, Phoebe Cates, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Judge Reinhold, Nicolas Cage, Forrest Whitaker, Ray Walston, Brian Backer. Let me see who else we got there. Robert Romanus, Eric Stoltz, Amanda Wyss, Vince Schiavelli. That's who I was thinking of. Vince. I'll put him in the chat here, private chat here. You see what he looks like. You'll recognize him. He was in a million things. Anthony Edwards. Who else? I'm just
Oh,
yeah, that guy. He was in a million. He was a great character actor. Vincent Schiavelli.
Yeah, it was Ghost.
Yes, he was the first ghost that Patrick Swayze talks to. Actually explains what being a ghost is all about.
I would do anything for a drag. Just one drag.
Yep. And Taylor Negron's in that movie, which again, Taylor, a very good character actor. He was the pizza guy. Who are you? The pizza guy.
Yeah.
And Taylor Negron was in that movie, Young Doctors in Love. I don't know if you ever saw that one. That was another one with a lot of people in their early stages of their career. Hector Elizondo. What's his name? He played Lenny on Laverne and Shirley. Michael. Michael McKean.
Yeah.
Michael McKean. You see here.
This is Spinal.
Yes. So let me see. So Young Doctors in Love with Michael McKean, Sean Young, Hector Elizondo, Michael Richards.
I vaguely remember that movie. I remember there was a scene in that where over the loudspeaker they would say things like, due to a mix-up in urology, no apple juice will be served today.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it was a great movie. Hector Elizondo, Michael Richards, Dabney Coleman. Obviously, he wasn't new, but he was around. Harry Dean Stanton, Ted McGinley, Pamela Reed. Pamela Reed played the other cop in Kindergarten Cops. She was the female partner.
Okay.
Saul Rubinek. Again, you wouldn't recognize Saul Rubinek's name, but if you saw him, you go, "Oh, that guy." Crystal Bernard, Rick Overton, Taylor Negrin, Patrick McNee. Who else here? I was looking for people that you would have heard of. I guess that's really everybody else is kind of not as well known.
So
But,
do we have a
Billy Bird. Billy Bird was in a billion things. That she's like hey, we need an old lady. Someone called Billy Bird. You know.
Is there a time frame on History of the World Part 2?
Well, I guess technically no, but
They're
I mean,
filming now, right?
Was that?
They're shooting it now.
I think they are, yeah. But I mean, they better get moving because I mean, how old is Mel Brooks? He's like 95, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's like telling the history of the world from first-hand accounts.
Yeah. He's 95.
Yeah.
In fact, he'll be 96 at the end of June.
That's another movie with a great cast too. Mel Brooks, Madeline Kahn, Dom DeLuise, Cloris Leachman, Harvey Korman, Sid Caesar, Gregory Hines, Ron Carey, Mary Margaret. I listed Mary Margaret Humes, Shecky Green, Pamela Stevenson, and Hugh Hefner's in it. Ruby DeLuca, Orson Welles is in it. John Hurt, Spike Milligan, Jackie Mason. So many good movies, and then most of these people are dead. That's what we've been pretty sober for me. Remember in 2015 when like a celebrity died like once or twice a month. We thought it was so terrible, and now we're losing them at least once a week on average, and we didn't even notice. Like what's her name? Ashley Judd. I guess she committed suicide.
What?
Ashley Judd, the mother. I always forget if it was Winona or Ashley, whichever one's older.
She committed suicide.
Yeah.
When?
Okay, it wasn't Ashley. Naomi Judd. Naomi Judd committed suicide. And I guess Ashley found her body. So, but
oh God, like yesterday.
Yeah. So I know. Yeah. Naomi Judd died April 30th, and she's just like a few days short of being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Or was it country? One of them. I was might have been country music. But.
Her memorial service will air on CMT. Oh, April 30th.
Yep.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah, that would be fucking, to find your dead parent after they shot themselves in the head. That would be traumatic.
That's a bad day.
That is a bad, lots of days.
Yeah. Actually, it lasted longer than I thought. I did good tonight.
Yeah, I was just looking again.
Really, no fever. Just coughing and very congested. 2 weeks now.
That's the worst, when something just won't go away.
It's like this lingering pile of shit.
Oh, Larry Jenkins was also in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
I don't know who that is.
If you saw his face, you'd recognize him.
I'm gonna see his face.
He was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off also.
All right.
Yeah, you see him when he was young. You'll recognize him more likely.
Yeah, he was in a lot.
Yeah.
Young Doctors in Love,
Well,
Fletch, The Presidio.
well, that's the thing. What's kind of funny about people who are character actors. Like they may never become the household name, but they get lots of work if they're good. Because there's like, hey, we need somebody who can pull off this role. Go call up Flash or go call up Taylor Negron or whoever.
Oh, he just died.
2019, yeah.
Larry Jenkins died. No, it's a different one. Holy shit. There's a whole bunch of different Larry Jenkins here that died.
Shit. I'll show you. I'll link you the one that I mean.
Well, Larry Flash Jenkins, yeah, died in 2019.
Yeah. Oh, he did an episode of MASH too. I think that was the episode where there are a bunch of black engineers, and they keep getting put on these like suicide missions because the guy who's their commander like basically doesn't like black people, unhappy that the army's been integrated and he has to have black people in his unit, so he basically sends them off into near suicide missions um and so when Hawkeye originally says, "Oh, that guy, guy's good, he here, checking on you," and they're like, basically like, yeah, he's a slave taskmaster, so yeah, we're not happy with him, and
wow, I don't remember that one.
Oh shit, that reminds me. Speaking of slave taskmasters, I posted today. There's a story. This is like one of the Delaware universities, a Delaware University lacrosse teams. So it's a historically black college, and so the women, the players are all black, and the coaches are black, and the driver was black, and they're in a bus, and they're in Georgia, and they got pulled over because supposedly, well, they originally said that it was an illegal lane change, but then they said, well, you're not supposed to be driving a bus in the left lane, so that's two different things. But then the cops came onto the bus and are like, we're going to be searching your luggage, and if you have any, contraband, any marijuana or drugs, you should tell us now because it'll go easier on you, and and we can do this, and then got the drug dogs out there, no probable cause whatsoever, because the passengers are not the drivers. So if the driver did something wrong, that's not an invitation to search the passengers or their effects.
Right.
And it's very clear. I mean, you see these guys in their fucking ads. They're slave catchers. That's what they are.
Wow. We had I was reading on Facebook today, a guy I know, Puerto Rican guy, and he is a musician, and he goes to different venues and stuff or whatever, and he was apparently on his way home, and they had like a van, and his son kind of like went out the window, did like this kind of a thing, and they got pulled over by like 10 squad cars with guns drawn and everything, and they separated the kid and the parents and questioned them all separately, and supposedly somebody said the kid was waving an AK-47 or something out the window. And this is right here.
Yeah.
This is New Jersey. This is and yeah.
Some of those who work forces.
Yeah, I know.
This is why, like, when the people who want to deny that shit happens or that there's any racial component to it, they'll say, "Oh, well, the cops are just out of control." Like, yes, and the cops also have a race problem. The two things are not mutually exclusive. So yes, it happens to everybody, but it happens to us more. And that's the stuff that drives me nuts. It's like, yeah, they don't. I'm sure you've seen the videos where they have like a white dude go down the street with a rifle or something like that.
Yeah,
and
nobody's nothing.
Cops show up and they're like, "Well, what's going on?" And they want to understand. But the black dude with the gun, get on the ground, face down, hands behind your back, blah blah blah. And that's why I do not give a fuck about the Second Amendment right, because if it's not a right that I really have that in practice, then you have that right or not. Because if I don't have it, fuck everybody else.
I agree. But yeah, I mean, this kid didn't do nothing wrong.
Right,
And he separated him from his parents and questioned them, and
Yeah.
questioned the parents and everything else. And it was just like, you know,
Slave
he
game.
said, thank God that the kid remembered everything, that his father, taught him on how to deal with the police. Because if he had lost it, it could have been a lot worse.
Well, this is the thing that pisses me off the most is like, okay, so here they are supposedly trained professionals. They go through all this stuff, but they're not expected to keep their cool and try to de-escalate and control themselves, because we just have to understand their job is hard. So if they pop off and murder somebody, oh well. But we as civilians who are not trained in any of that, we're
You have to
expected
keep
to
your
be,
head. Yeah, you have to keep your shit together. You have to keep your head. Yeah.
I was thinking, and mind you, this was a white guy that happened to, but this poor dude, supposedly someone was shooting a BB gun out of a window. Wasn't this kid, but so cops come in and they see this kid and they tell him, get on his hands and knees and to crawl toward them. And the guy said flat out, if you do anything, I'm going to shoot you. So he's crawling, but he just barely put clothes on, so he's got like sweatpants, and they start to slide down. So he goes to hike his pants up. Guy fucking plunks him right in the head. Now, I don't want to, he's reaching for his waistband. Look, you knew that kid had nothing. You just didn't care. You just wanted to blow the fucking guy away.
Yeah.
Because you're
I remember that. It was that video. It was a video. They in a hotel.
Yes, exactly.
In the hallway in the hotel.
Yeah. Because he said flat out, he basically told the kid, he basically told the kid, no, I'm prepared to kill you. And he wanted to. He was just looking for, boom, boom. And he probably went and bragged about it to his fucking guys at the squad. Oh yeah, fucking stupid kid. Oh, fucking popped him.
Yep, probably.
Well, that's like the I don't know if you heard about the Karen Gardner case. That was the woman with the dementia and aphasia, who accidentally took some stuff out of Walmart, and then the police. So then the guy came. The Walmart employees came out and they got the stuff back from her, but they had called the police. So the police track her down. She's walking home. She's like in a daze. She don't know what the fuck she is.
Oh yeah, I remember this one. They dislocated her arm.
Yeah, purposely.
Yeah,
and we know it was purposely because then when he's back at the squad station, he's laughing about it and goes, "Oh, watch this," and like boom, yeah. And he's bragging how he brutalized a 70-year-old woman with dementia and aphasia. Now he got charged, and I think he may have gotten convicted. I'm not sure, but I think we're waiting. Yeah, I think he got convicted. We're waiting for sentencing. But the only reason why that happened is because her lawyers got a hold of the body cam videos and the videos at the station. Because when they originally brought it up to the police leadership, the leadership was fine with it. Everything was fine. Nothing was wrong. And then all of a sudden, oh, this doesn't represent who we are. No, it actually does, because you saw it and you were okay with it. And I'm not saying every police force is like that, but too many of them. And the ones where it is a problem, it's because the leadership countenances it.
And how do you know? And how do you know if it is or it isn't in that particular? I mean, it's the bowl of M&Ms with the poison M&Ms.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the bad guy, and especially in those M&M cases, always like, oh, there's 3 bad ones. I think there's 50. I think 50 out of 100 of those M&Ms are poison.
Yeah.
And because then we know what happens. The good cops, there are good cops out there. When the good cops turn into bad cops, the good cops are the ones that get sanctioned, and that tells you everything you need to know. Because if it was really a few bad apples, then the leadership would say, "Oh, thank you, good cop. You did a good thing rooting out the bad apples among you." No, they sanction the good cops, which says that they don't want the good cops there. They want the loose cannons. They want the cowboys. They want the brutalizers, because they're slave catchers.
Agreed. All right. I'm actually going to start wrapping this up. It's almost at 2 hours. 2 hours is typically what we do for a show. So
yeah, you did well.
So we do well. I'm having a harder time breathing out than I did in the beginning.
I could tell. I think that's why you were letting me just ramble, because you were like, oh, trying to muster your strength to say some more shit.
This sucks. I don't know why. Like I said, no fever, just
Mm,
Sucks.
yeah. If you have the opportunity, and which you might know, you might not, but if you are able to get to a doctor, say, hey, look, I've taken all the COVID tests.
Yeah, right. As
What the fuck is it?
we'll see. Like I said, it's not just me too. One of the kids. I mean, Damon has a little bit of a cough yet, but it's really hanging on with Kai. Me and Kai both. We're like,
Hmm.
everybody else seems to be getting over it. But cop got pulling over an off-duty cop. Isn't that a bitch?
Yeah. He pulled over an off-duty cop who was speeding, and then he got in trouble for doing his job. Because that tells me that his job isn't to stop cops from doing bad things. His job is to,
Stop everybody else, not
stop
cops.
everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Have a great night. Thank you for coming and hanging out. It was a pretty unannounced and unstructured show, but we had a good time anyway. I'm gonna go take some cough syrup or something.
Okay. Good luck.
Good night, everybody.
See ya. Hope you have a good time.